Before the gods turned away, before memory became a curse, two men stood at the edge of eternity. One begged for more time, the other had too much of it. And in their mirrored journeys, we see what it truly means to live. This episode of Modern Myths explores the connection between Lost Odyssey's Kaim Argonar and the epic of Gilgamesh. There are stories older than writing, stories so deeply carved into the human soul that they show up again and again across time and culture. One of those stories begins in the cradle of civilization and another in a forgotten JRPG on the Xbox 360. Their names are Gilgamesh and Kaim, and they are the same man told two different ways. In every myth, the hero begins in comfort or arrogance, and then something calls them out. Gilgamesh begins his tale as a king too powerful for his own people, a demigod born into a life of luxury, entitlement, and unmatched strength. He builds towering walls and rules with unchecked desire. He is both beloved and feared, but empty. The people cry out for relief from their king, and the gods answer not with punishment, but with reflection. Enkidu arrives, raw, wild, and pure, and for the first time Gilgamesh is seen. Through friendship and shared battle, he experiences connection. And through Enkidu's death, he experiences loss. That moment becomes his call, the realization that even the mighty will die. That death waits for kings just as it waits for beggars. And it's something Gilgamesh cannot accept. Kaim, by contrast, is already broken when we meet him. The 1,000 years have already passed. He's seen wars come and go, families die, civilizations fall into ash, and worse, he remembers none of it. His past is a puzzle scattered across millennia. Kaim is numb. He's dislocated, still alive, but no longer living. And yet, the moment his memories return, scattered through stories, whispered in dreams, that becomes his call. His adventure is not outward, but inward. Not to escape death, but to remember life. For Gilgamesh, the journey is sparked by loss. For Kaim, it's remembering what he's already lost. Both are pulled away from the mundane into the mythic. They're asked not just to survive, but to feel again. No hero walks alone. Not really. And pain always teaches. Gilgamesh's journey leads him to confront the monstrous guardian Humbaba, defy the goddess Ishtar, and watch helplessly as the gods exact their justice. The death of Enkidu is not just grief, it's revelation. For the first time, Gilgamesh realizes that his strength means nothing in the face of the eternal. Every act of conquest fades, every monument crumbles, and he begins to fear what lies beyond his throne. His enemies are divine, colossal, unknowable, but the true enemy is mortality itself. And his trials, though grand, are driven by that fear. Kaim's trials are quieter, more human. He meets Sarah, Seth, Jansen, Mac, and Cook, each a flicker of light. and his shadowed soul. Through them, he begins to thaw. Through their love, their questions, their trust, he begins to feel the weight of what he's forgotten. But his enemies are not beasts. They are grief and guilt, the temptation to close his heart forever. And there are other immortals like him, especially Gongora, who chose to use eternal life to dominate rather than connect. Gongora is what Kaim could have become had he rejected memory and empathy entirely. Their emotional trials mirror one another in striking ways. Enkidu's death breaks Gilgamesh open. So too does Lirim's death, Kaim's daughter, tear down the walls around his heart. Both are moments of irreversible transformation. Gilgamesh confronts the divine, and Kaim confronts the human, but both are undone by love and reassembled of grief. For both men, the journey is not simply to survive battles. It's to rediscover the value of life in the presence of inevitable loss. Every myth has its darkest point, the death of self. For Gilgamesh, that abyss lies in the realm beyond the waters of death. There he meets Unapushtum, the man who survived the flood, the only mortal granted immortality. Gilgamesh demands this secret. He performs trials, and for a brief moment, he holds in his hands the gift that he's been seeking, the plant of eternal life. But as he sleeps, a snake steals it, and Gilgamesh awakens to nothing but the sea. Immortality is gone, the gods say nothing, and in that silence, the king understands. Kaim's abyss is not in the distant ocean. It's in memory. He walks through 1,000 years of personal hell, children he failed to save, friends who died in wars he forgot, moments of peace shattered by the ticking of time. He forgets the things Gilgamesh desperately tried to preserve, and in that forgetting he experiences his own kind of theft, not by a snake, by time itself. Each dream, each story, each rediscovered truth is another descent into himself, and another step toward clarity. And yet, unlike Gilgamesh, Kaim does not fail his trial. He does remember. He endures. He feels. And in doing so, he transcends his own numbness, not to become a god, as Gilgamesh wished, but to become human again. The journey ends not when the battle is won, but when the hero brings something back. Gilgamesh returns to Uruk a changed man, no longer obsessed with conquest or fame. He gazes upon the walls he built and sees them differently. He sees the people, the fleeting beauty of their lives, and the truth that death gives meaning to all things. He carves his story into stone, not to be worshipped, but to be remembered. And in that memory, he finds peace. Kaim returns to his family, to Sarah, to the children. He no longer avoids the pain. He embraces it. He doesn't seek to escape his curse, but to use it, to teach, to protect, to cherish. He no longer fears the past. He carries it with him. Where Gilgamesh leaves his mark in clay and stone, Kaim finds his legacy in laughter, in bedtime stories, in the warmth of arms wrapped around him. The elixir he brings is not power or wisdom for a kingdom. It is presence. It's the ability to truly see the people in front of him and not turn away. What do a Babylonian king and a battle-worn JRPG warrior have in common? Everything. They lived too long, loved too hard, lost too much, and in the end, they walked through myth to rediscover what it means to be human. But, there's one haunting distinction. Gilgamesh was denied immortality, something he was seeking all his life. Kaim lives it. And through that contrast, we see something powerful. Kaim is the man Gilgamesh might have become if the gods had answered him, if the plant had not been stolen, if eternal life were granted instead of withheld. And it's not the fantasy Gilgamesh imagined. Kaim shows us the price, not infinite glory, but infinite grief. Not freedom from death, but a prison of memory. While Gilgamesh longed for immortality, Kaim became its warning. A man slowly crushed by the weight of 1,000 years of loss and love. The truth is, perhaps the gods were merciful in their denial. Yet, in the end, both men find meaning not in power, but in people, in the fragile, fleeting beauty of connection. And when they return, Gilgamesh to Uruk, Kaim to his family, they carry the same gift, not eternal life, but wisdom. Perhaps we're all seeking immortality in some form. A name remembered, a story passed down, a love that survives the years. But Kaim teaches us that even eternity can be hollow if it's unlived. And Gilgamesh reminds us that mortality itself is what makes every moment sacred. In the end, it's not about how long we live, but how deeply. So if you enjoy unearthing the mythology and deeper themes buried within our favorite games, give the video a like and subscribe for more. And let me know in the comments, what games do you think carry hidden myths or stories worth exploring? I'm always looking for the next legend to dive into. I appreciate you all watching and tuning in. Have an amazing day, and God bless.